So thank you all for joining us. As Scott kind of was saying, if you just tuned in here, we are going to be chatting about split testing and running different experiments on your products today. So this is super relevant if you already have products for sale on Amazon. If you don't, maybe you just place an order, it's in the mail, whatever. You can still learn a lot from this, and you'll be ready once that product gets there, and you know kind of what kind of pictures do a little bit better, and so forth. So with that being said, I've prepared a few slides here we're going to go through, and then we'll kind of do some more real-world demos. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you guys. All right. And just let me know once you can see. I know it takes a second, Scott.
Yep. Why don't you go ahead and present to all, and then that way there I won't interfere with audio, or else I'll just mute myself down.
All right. All right. So the art and science of split testing on Amazon. All right, so let's talk about real quick what the big picture view of split testing is, okay? So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, some people call it A/B testing, some people call it split testing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to compare two different, whether it be Amazon products or two different buttons on your website or whatever. For our case, we're going to be talking about Amazon listings. And you're trying to figure out which one does better, which one makes more sales or gets more clicks, or at the end of the day makes you more money. This is something that we were saying a little bit before we got started here that's been used for probably a decade in kind of the e-commerce or online marketing type space, but it's something that people aren't really doing much with Amazon, and there are very small tweaks you can make with minimal effort that can potentially have huge returns. So how does it work? Again, with a normal website, we'd usually send like one visitor to one ad or one page or one button, then the next visitor we'd alternate and send them to something else. Since we are playing in Amazon's arena, we do have to play by their rules, so it's a little bit different. And we can only use the data that they give us from running the tests. So with split testing on Amazon, we have to kind of think about, okay, when can we get the data from them, how often can we make the changes, and so forth. And then we also, since we are kind of limited to how often we can make changes and so forth, we have to decide, like, okay, well, how long do we have to run these tests until they're statistically significant? Was this just a big day because people are searching for marshmallow sticks because it's 4th of July, or is it really because of the change that I made on my listing? So, like I said, we kind of have to work within Amazon's guidelines. As a lot of you know, on Amazon listings, there is only so much we can change. We can't change Amazon's logo in the top corner to our logo. The things we can change, are our title, our pictures, our bullet points, our description, and so forth. Like I was saying earlier, we can't, send some traffic to one page and send the next visitor to a different page. So instead, the best way to make changes with split testing on Amazon is to do it at midnight. And the reason for this is the data that Amazon gives us for sales and conversions and sessions and so forth is on a 24-hour period, so it's for that day, and it restarts at midnight Pacific time, which is, I guess Seattle's headquarters, Amazon's headquarters out in Seattle. So, as we're kind of talking about, there's lots of different things we can change with our listings, right? I was naming all of them off. There's even back-end keywords and so forth. What we've done is we've collected quite a bit of data in the past few months from tests that have gone really well or made huge differences and so forth. I've been testing a whole bunch of my products. I've gotten my friends involved with this. Other people have given me permission to view the results of some of the stuff that some of the split tests that they're running, and I've kind of come up with two types of tests that are the highest impact or make the biggest difference, okay? And these are price tests in your main image, all right? So I've tested everything from the back-end keywords to the description to the bullet points, all my photos, adding one photo, taking one photo away, and so forth. And these are the two things this is like the low-hanging fruit that you want to take advantage of right away. So the first one's price, and when I say price, most people think of, okay, I could, add $1 or make it $1 cheaper or $1 more expensive or $5 more expensive. But also don't forget about, you can also make small changes. Instead of selling it for $9.99, try selling it for $9.97 or $9.88. And you'll be amazed, like the psychology of pricing. We could talk for days about that. But some of these even super small changes like this make a difference, which is pretty amazing. So through all this data I've kind of looked at and through all the tests that I've run, I've come up with some general rule of thumbs that you can use to try to help you get started, like on your first split test. But at the end of the day, what I've also found is it always depends, like what niche you're in, how many competitors you have, how price sensitive people are for this specific item, and so forth. But you can kind of use these general rules of thumbs or use these as a good place to start testing. All right. So in a highly competitive niche, say you are selling the garlic press and you're searching that, the front page is just loaded up with this particular item, I would recommend making small incremental changes with the price. So you could increase it by 50 cents, you could change it from $9.97 to $9.99, try increasing it by $1 or decreasing by $1. And a lot of times, even though these are small incremental changes, they'll make a big difference, which is always pretty amazing until you are kind of almost hard to believe until you really see the data. If it's a lower competition item, say for instance there's only a few of them on there, most people are surprised by they can increase their price by $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 and still make the same amount of sales or still make more profit. So don't think just because my competitor is selling it for $19.99 that you have to sell it for $19.99. A lot of times, just the perceived value of of an item. Oh, this one's $22.99. Yeah, it's only $2 or $3 more. Why don't I look at this item? At that point, if you have some good pictures and stuff or so forth, you might be able to convert them on that one. And then the other kind of rule of thumb that I've really found is a differentiated or an improved product. You can usually increase the price by more than you think. All right. So an example of this would be one of my products. I chose this product because it had a bunch of bad reviews, and all of the bad reviews said the plastic buckles were breaking. So with this particular product, I replaced the plastic buckles with metal buckles. My competitors were selling this item for like $15 to $20. So at first I thought, okay, they're all getting like 3.5 or 4 stars. I'm getting 4.5 and 5 stars. So why don't I try to increase this by like $1 or $2? And what I found was I was actually able to increase the price by like $12 without a decrease in my conversion rate. So people are willing to spend more money for differentiated or improved products, especially if you get a lot better reviews. And it doesn't even actually, I shouldn't even say, it doesn't even have to be a lot better reviews. Like if your average review count is 4.5 stars and your competitor is 4 stars, you'll be surprised that people are usually willing to spend an extra few dollars on the item that's ranked a little bit better in Amazon. So this would be a good example, or kind of like how we can start thinking about this if you're still unclear. So we can come up with a hypothesis. Say, okay, I'm selling these electric bug zappers. And you can kind of look at your competition, see where their pricing's at, where yours is normally at, how your product compares to theirs. Is it more heavy duty? Does it also include a carrying case? Is it lighter and smaller, or so forth? You can come up with a hypothesis, and then the best thing to do is to run that test, because a lot of times you'll be amazed that your hypothesis doesn't actually work out to what you thought. So you can do this on your own without any tools. How you could do that is just every night go in at midnight Pacific time, adjust the price to where you want it. So say for instance I'm going from $14.99 to $18.99. I can go in there every night at midnight Pacific time. I can make the change, and then after doing that for about 2 weeks or longer, I could then look at the sessions and the conversions and the profit and so forth, see what makes me the most profit, and then that of course would be the best price to go with. So we talked about pricing. That is one of the lowest hanging fruits. The other lowest hanging fruit is changing your main image. All right. So this is the image that everyone sees when they search. So if I search for bocce balls, these over here, these are the images that I see over here on the left-hand side. And this is what is going to get you the clicks into your listing, all right? I think that research shows, and it makes sense, that right away after making a search on Amazon, people's eyes are drawn straight to the images. They don't read that whole long title right away. The first thing that draws their eye right away is looking at the product, the main product image. So it makes sense that this can make a huge difference on how many clicks and sessions and therefore probably sales you're making. So let's kind of talk about some things that I've seen from my tests of what makes a good main image and what just makes an okay or not so great main image. All right. And a lot of times, kind of as Chris was saying before we started the show, it may not be what you think, and a lot of times it might not be like what a lot of people would think of as like the most professional or the most kind of like normal or typical type product image you would see. A lot of times if it's a little bit weirder or so forth, it kind of draws the eye to that particular product. That's the one that gets the click, and then once they click into your listing, that's when you have the opportunity to convert on the sale. So a few of the pictures that I've seen work really well or make these huge differences are if it's a product that has multiple items or is bundled or so forth, by spreading out the product around the particular main image, it makes it, I think, the perceived value seems to be higher. Like, okay, if I look at this image over here on the left-hand side compared to this image over here on the right-hand side, it's like, okay, this one looks like there's a bag with some balls in it. This one, it looks like a bag, but there seems to be like a lot more balls or whatever, and this one's going to draw your eye more towards it. I've seen a lot of times people will click on an item like that. So this is an example. Maybe this one doesn't exactly relate to the type of product that you're selling, but I think through some of these examples I'm going to give you, you can start to kind of think like, okay, this is how you think outside the box, or these are the ones that tend to do a little bit better and so forth. And again, this is another one of a bundled item. So I haven't actually seen this particular item get tested, but I'm using some of these as kind of analogies of products that have been tested and done really well. So this is like the same product, okay? It's a carrying case for GoPro accessories, and it's full of a whole bunch of stuff, all right? Over here on the left-hand side, this was someone's main image. And when you look at this item, you don't quite realize, how much is included with this particular product, especially if it's just one of these really small thumbnails. Compared to over here on the right-hand side, it's like, wow, that looks like there's a ton of stuff in there, It's like right away, it's like, man, I want to click on this one. I can't believe just like how much stuff I get with that one compared to the one on the left. So again, if you have a bundle type item or something with lots of products in it, start thinking about maybe doing an image like this, or at least testing it. All right, are you still with me over there, Scott? I'm always worried that I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah, I'm here. And it is a little strange for me to be on this end too, but it's kind of nice too. You're doing great.
All right, right on. All right, so this is another example of, let's real quick just talk about Amazon's guidelines and what you can and cannot have in your main image. So some things that you'll often see on Amazon but are against the rules will be like watermarks or little badges or so forth on the main image. All right. Technically, by Amazon's rules, it doesn't appear it's very strictly enforced, but those aren't allowed. You're also not allowed to do like lifestyle images. So that would be like someone holding the marshmallow sticks, or maybe like a pretty lady wearing this headband right here. It has to be on a pure white background, so you can't do like a black background to stand out. However, in their guidelines, if you read it carefully, it does say minimal propping is okay, and the terminology they use is something so like it doesn't confuse the customer. All right, and I found this example right here. I think is a great example of this. So again, this one on the top, this is someone's particular main image, and on there, these are headbands, but this looks pretty like dull, pretty lame. Like I'm not quite sure what these are. They don't look nice. They just look kind of like black squares, right? Compared to this right here, and by my opinion, I think this would be minimal propping that does not confuse the customer. I don't think the customer thinks that they're going to get this mannequin with the headband. So this appears to be, totally with Amazon's terms of service. And this is a really good way to kind of showcase your item better. So instead of just showing a black square, which pretty much tells the customer nothing, the headband on this mannequin right here, it looks a lot higher end. It looks nicer. It looks like something I would want to click on. So again, that's something you start thinking about. If you have an item that, like this, that would be much better with minimal propping, or maybe you can't quite understand what it does without a little bit of propping, then according to Amazon's terms of service, the terminology they use is minimal propping, which I think is okay.
Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
real quick. Elder just put a question in there, and it's a good question. For example, he says, let's say I sell a water cup. Can I have water falling into the cup? Like, what would your thoughts be on that?
That's a good question. I think from Amazon's point of view, they just don't want to mislead the customer. So, would your typical customer know that this cup probably doesn't come with water? I would think so. So in my opinion, that would probably be okay. Me personally, I do everything I can to follow Amazon's terms of service, but I also do know that people that normally fall into these types of violations that don't meet the main image, usually the listing gets suppressed within a few hours, usually gets unsuppressed. So if you want to try something like that, according to your opinion, you've legitimately read the rules and you think it falls within the guidelines, then I would say go for it. Water in the cup, that's probably minimal propping, but I guess use your best judgment.
I would say the same thing. I would say use your own judgment, but like you said, I mean, especially if it's your first time and you got suppressed, it's probably not going to be a huge deal. But again, I would think that it would be okay, but you don't know. But I would think you're just demonstrating how the cup is being used or what it's being used for.
Right. I do know what Amazon definitely doesn't want is for you to mislead that there's a bunch of other stuff included with the cup. So if you have a cup, you wouldn't want to have like a koozie on the cup that isn't included, and a rack that holds 6 cups. If all that's in the picture, but all the customer gets is the one single cup, that's the kind of thing that Amazon definitely does not want, and that is probably going to lead you to get your listing suppressed or trouble or whatever else. So, just keep that in mind.
One quick question again before we move on.
Sure.
Roland says, you say that you're not allowed to have lifestyle pictures, but what if people who sell clothing items or accessories, can you not have a picture of someone wearing it?
Yeah, so I think the best thing and let me just clarify something. Right now I'm talking about just the main image, which has different guidelines than the rest of your images. So your main image is the one that has to be on the white background. It's supposed to have no or minimal propping, not to be shown with other accessories not included, and so forth. The rest of the images have more leeway. You are allowed to show a lifestyle image. You're allowed to show it without the white background, I believe. And if you just Google search, Amazon photo guidelines, you can read all of them over yourself. But if I was selling a shirt, I would probably try to do something like this with a mannequin. And I think this is what Amazon does with their own products as well. They would show like the T-shirt on like a mannequin, and then you kind of crop out the head and below the waist so you just see the T-shirt. So again, I think that's the kind of thing that minimal propping probably makes their store look better, makes you get more sales and so forth. So something like that I think will be okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. All right, cool.
This was one of my, I've done a few tests similar to this now, and these tests amaze me. So I had to put something about this in here. So, and again, these are analogies. The actual test was none of these particular products, but it gets your kind of mind going in the right direction. Is you can start kind of thinking outside the box a little bit of what would draw people's eyes to your particular listing. All right. So keep in mind, you're not allowed to include anything that in your main image that is that you portray to be like an accessory that's not really included and so forth. But all these types of items, So say, for instance, say I was selling these David sunflower seeds. All my competitors just show packs of sunflower seeds. But instead, imagine if my main image, maybe some of the seeds are falling out of the package and spelt out like a sunflower or seed, or maybe had the shape of a sunflower. That's something that appears to fall totally within Amazon's guidelines. It's only the product, it's on a white background, and so forth, the minimal propping, and that's the kind of thing that's really going to draw people's eyes to it. So I've seen a few tests kind of similar to this, and like on one of them, the person was getting twice as many clicks, and their conversion rate was pretty much staying the same. So just by changing the main image, they're making like twice as many sales every day, which is crazy. So it's pretty neat. So if you have a product that has a high volume, maybe you can think about doing something like this. Like for this Lego one over here, maybe instead of just a huge pile of Legos right there, he kind of like spelt something out, or maybe he made Legos in the shape of the Amazon A or something similar to that. So these are types of things you can kind of think about. So this is, some of you might know, this is a product that I do sell, marshmallow sticks. I call them jungle sticks. And again, this is something that we did to try to stand out from the competition a little bit. So all of our competitors just had like a long skinny pack, or just the marshmallow sticks themselves, like long and skinny, which are kind of hard to photograph, like a 3-foot long marshmallow stick that's only the size like a pencil. So what we decided to do is, kind of fan it out a little bit, and it's something that I think, again, just draws more eyes to it, kind of draws attention to it when all your competitors just have these long, skinny packs that aren't very photogenic. So yeah, again, just think maybe a different angle, or a different view that most people don't have, or so forth. And these are all really good things to test. All right, so let's talk about some split testing best practices. So we've gone over, okay, the price is really low-hanging fruit, really good thing to test. The main image is a really good thing to test. Now, how do we do it? Okay, so like I said earlier, you can do this without any tools or anything. You can just go in on midnight Pacific time every night, change it, and do that for a few weeks, and then view the results. Some best practices that you want to follow, or the biggest thing that I see go wrong, is people don't run the test long enough. Okay, so as all you know, if you already have products up on Amazon, sales vary a lot from day to day. So like with my marshmallow sticks, one day I might sell 25, and the next day I sell 12. The next day I sell 18. The next day I sell 7. And this is without any testing, without any alternates or anything. That's just kind of how sales on Amazon go. At the end of the month, it all kind of works out to an average, but there's a lot of highs and lows from day to day. So you need to run your test at minimum for 2 weeks, and a lot of times that's on the lower end, unless you get a lot of traffic and are making a lot of sales. Okay, so this does take some time. However, it's certainly worth it. You only want to test one thing at a time, so don't go and change your main image and your price, like on the same day, alternating days, or whatever, because you don't know what made a difference. So like at the end of a few weeks, maybe you changed your price and your image. Your image improved it, your price made it worse. Combined, you didn't see any changes at all, but you wouldn't, you don't know what is accounting for what. So, it's kind of hard to be patient with it sometimes, but you definitely want to test it for a minimum 2 weeks, probably more, and you only want to test one thing at a time. What I like to do is I like to run it to a 90 or 95% statistical significance, and we'll give you a link actually at the end of the webinar to a webpage or our site where you can download a free statistical significance calculator we made, and you can put in the number of sessions and conversions and see if it's statistically significant. And what that means is, was this a fluke, or are the changes you're making, do they have a big impact? So, all right. So we kind of been talking about all this. We kind of went over if you want to do it for free without any tools, you can. If you do want to use some tools to help you out, we recently released a tool called Splitly, and I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit. And what it does is it automates this whole process. So, it's changing it every night for you. It automatically downloads all of your information about your sessions, your sales, so forth. It gives you recommendations whether you should continue running the test, whether you have statistically significant results, whether your change doesn't appear to make a big enough difference to ever come to a conclusion, and so forth. So inside Splitly, and we'll in a minute here kind of set up a demo test, but these are the types of things you would see. You'd see, how does my control compare to the change that I made? Maybe I'm getting more page views, but my conversions are higher, or maybe I'm making less sales, but my daily profit is higher. So this is all the kind of good information that it gives you without having to manually, try to download Amazon's reports and crunch the numbers and so forth, and it does it for you on a daily basis, which is pretty cool. So again, every day after it collects the information, it's going to show you like, okay, this day, my sales improved a little bit, my views, or my sessions maybe decreased or so forth. So you can kind of see and start to follow along on a day-by-day basis, if it's improving, if it's doing better, or so forth. So and just real quick before I give you a demo, this is what always kind of amazes me. Again, Scott and I were kind of talking about this before the webinar, but these small changes on Amazon can have huge dividends, okay? So this example, and this was a real example, 33% higher profits from a change. For our jungle sticks, they sell about $16,000 a month in revenue, $4,800 a month in profit. By increasing that 33%, so making the changes that work out to be that much better, you're talking about that would be $19,000 per year in increased profit. Okay, so maybe your product isn't selling as well as the jungle sticks are, so forth, but you're still talking about like minimal changes, maybe increasing your conversions by 2, 3, 5%. When you really add it up, it's like, man, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. So these small changes can have a huge impact. So I'm going to close out this real quick, and we'll kind of set up a demo test. All right. So everyone's still with me. Do we have any good questions at this point, Scott? Are any relevant to right now?
Yeah. No, I think right now, you should probably just keep rolling, and then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just dive into a bunch of these. But yeah, there's a lot of great questions coming in, and I think
Perfect.
you're gonna enjoy them too. So yeah, let's just kind of keep rolling here.
Awesome. Let's do it. All right. So yeah, once you're inside Splitly, all your products will be listed out here. So what we can do, these are my bamboo marshmallow sticks, my jungle sticks. I'm going to go ahead and create a test. And these are all the kinds of things that you can change here. So we'll just do this together real quick. So my test name, I'll set up a price test for my jungle sticks. So this would be jungle sticks price test. Price test. And this is what I was talking about with the statistical significance of the item. So if maybe this is an item that sells ton every day, like hundreds or so forth, or you just want to be really sure that the results you're getting are very significant, that's when you can choose some of these higher, like 95 or 99% statistical significance. If you're just looking for faster results because you're just trying to run a bunch of tests, you could do 80. I recommend leaving it on 90%. The fixed cost here, these would be the price of your product with the pick and pack FBA fees, so the fulfillment by Amazon fees, not the commission. Okay, so with my jungle sticks, I think it was like paying $3 per product, $1 in inbound shipping is $4, and my pick and pack fees are around $2.50, so it's about $6.50. This is the commission, and for like 90% of products on Amazon, it's going to be 15%, so I'm going to keep it there. I recommend to rotate your products every single day. All right, so this is going to do every night at midnight Pacific time. It's going to rotate to my my variant, and then the next day it's going to show that to all the customers. And then down here we can choose what is your main goal. Are you trying to improve your conversion rate? Are you trying to improve your profit or just your sessions? For this particular one, I'm going to select profit because I'm doing a price test, and at the end of the day, that's what I care about when I'm testing the price, okay? Maybe I make a few less sales, but it's at a higher price, so I'm okay with that. If I'm still making more profit each month, that's going to be what I'm going to shoot for. And you'll still see all the data, all the graphs, no matter which goal you choose. However, the recommendations that Splitly is going to give you, whether you need to continue your test or end it or so forth, are going to be based on what your goal is. All right? So it's automatically loaded in all of my product description, bullet points, title, and so forth. I have all my pictures in here. So I'm going to change one variant compared to the other depending on what I want to test. So here I'll leave my price at 1988. So do price in 1988. All right, and that's what it says right here. This is the price that the Amazon consumers would check out at, 1988. And then over here for my variant, I'm going to say price, we'll say 2288. All right, and I go down here. I've changed this price to 2288. If I instead wanted to upload a new image or change my main image or so forth, I would do that here. If I wanted to change my title, of course you do that here. You have your bullet points and then your description at the bottom. So once you do that, I recommend you can preview the differences between the variants. And what we have here is it will highlight the differences with the two products. So if I change the main image, it's going to highlight the main image in yellow. Right here it has my old price was $19.88. My new price is $22.88, so it has highlighted that $22.88. So all right, this is what I want to do. I wanted to change the price. After that, all you have to do is save the test, and then when you're ready, you just begin running the test. All right? So go ahead,
Hey,
Scott.
Greg, yeah, quick question. A couple people have already asked this question a couple times, so I wanted to address it. Why change it every day? Like, why make the changes like one day and then the next day, and then why not just leave it run for a week and then do it for the following week?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and that's where I see a lot of people go wrong with the split testing. Okay, so when you only change like once a week, or some people will say, hey, I just changed my price from $19 to $21, and this week my sales have dropped tremendously. And the truth of it is, again, the people that have kind of been selling on Amazon for a long time, you probably realize this, sales change a lot. For instance, like these marshmallow sticks, back in January, they were only selling like 6 or 8 a day. Now in the spring and summertime, they'll sell like 15, 20, 25 a day. So, they're seasonal items. Depending on the holidays and whether it's a weekend or so forth, all these things affect your sales. So just by changing it 1 week, if you see your sales increase the next week, it doesn't mean it was because of the change that you made. It might just be sales were better that week. Or, this is especially true once we get into like the fourth quarter, right? Sales are just totally crazy some days. So that's why it's very important that, you want to rotate these on like a 24-hour basis. If Amazon gave us more data, I'd prefer to rotate this like hourly or something. But unfortunately, they only split up the data we need to make educated decisions on a 24-hour basis.
And that's something that I saw Big Al saying, why can't we just run 2 pages, right? If it was your own website, the way you do a split test is you run them kind of simultaneously, and you have a little piece of code that flips back and forth for every visitor. This is that 24-hour switch is the equivalent of that on Amazon, right? We want to show A today and B tomorrow so that if traffic dipped this week or if anything else like that changes, that we still know based on our old numbers that control, right? That 1888 or 1988. That's our control. So we know that if that stays the same or that drops and the other one drops, that is not just the price change.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and you'll see that happen a lot of times. So yeah, unfortunately, since we are playing in Amazon's ball game, like we said, we can't alternate between every other visitor. Instead, this is the best and most accurate way to do it is on a 24-hour basis. All right, so then after I was ready, I would go ahead and run the test, and then tonight at midnight, it would go ahead and swap to the new price. I could come back. it's hard. You always want to come back, like right away, like, oh, 12 hours later, have my sales improve. But like I said earlier, you kind of just have to be patient and just wait. The best thing to do is wait like at least a week before you even kind of look at it. And then after that, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before you can be sure of the decision. But let me just show you an example of what the results are going to look like. So this wasn't actually with the marshmallow sticks. I just kind of changed the name here to protect the privacy of this particular product I was selling. But these are real results that I got from a price test. All right. So this one ran for, looks like, total of 21 days, so about 3 weeks. And as you can see here, this is all the sessions, the page views, sales, conversions, and profit on each of these days. So, it started March 18th, and then so forth. And you can kind of look at the data. I prefer to just kind of look at the graphs here, and what I see is, and this is what I was kind of talking about how a lot of times you don't know until you start to test. So this would surprise a lot of people that the increased price actually was getting a few more sessions per day. Like I was saying, this is one of those things like it's perceived value. So not only was it getting more impressions, but I was making a few more sales each day. Amazingly, the conversion rate improved for this particular product. So of course my profit did as well. So this, of course, I pulled out one of the tests that went the best for me. I wouldn't say that you always see a large increase in profit like this for every test you run. But the thing is, you don't know until you run these tests. Is it going to help? Is it going to hurt, or so forth? So yeah, I guess that's why you have to test it. So yeah, let's why don't we go ahead and take a few more tests there, Scott? Or excuse me, a few more questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a bunch, and I think I want to just kind of echo what you were saying. Like, can you go back to your spot there in this you were just showing your different days of sales.
Yep.
And I just like people to see that look at how, like, one day there was 1, and then there was 7, and then there was 10, and then there was 13, and then there was 4, and then there was 13, and then there was 7, and that's Amazon, right?
Right.
I mean, you're not always going to have that, but if you average it, then it's going to give you what you had for per day, and that's why you can't look at the day. You have to look at kind of like the month. And in this case, we're looking at it flopping back and forth between, like, one day you have a change, and then the next day you have another change, and then you just keep flopping back and forth. So that way it's not dependent on a certain time of the week or time of the day. That would really be getting granular as well if we could do time of the day, like you said, but that would be killer. But we don't have that. But this is like the next best thing, I think, in split testing. Again, I don't think there's sometimes when you do these tests, you're kind of baffled by the results. But it can make a huge difference. And some people would say, well, yeah, but I don't want to have to keep doing this stuff. And you know what? Maybe you don't want to do it on all your products. Maybe you just want to do it on the ones that are the top performing products, right? That get the most traffic. Now, how much traffic do you think? And I know that the software kind of does it for you, but if you were doing this manually, like, and you would kind of go back for, like, what is there a session count that you would say, all right, I think we've got kind of enough traffic through this to kind of give it a good, honest try?
I wouldn't say necessarily like a session count. If I did have to kind of like pick a number as a general rule of thumb, I would. If you don't have much traffic, it's just going to take a long time to run these tests. The more traffic you have, the quicker you can run these tests. I'd say if you're getting less than, say, 20, 30, maybe 50 sessions a day, you might want to try to work on improving your keyword ranks a little bit. Or I guess the first thing I'd probably test in that scenario is my main image, just see if I can get a few more sessions. So that actually, I was kind of talking earlier about the statistical significance calculator, and this is what I'm saying. So there's not so much an exact number you have to go by. It's just the least amount of sessions you have, the longer it's going to take the test. So if I sent 1,000 people to the control, 1,000 people to the variation. You can put in how many conversions you had for each one, and it'll tell you, okay, is that like 90% confident for your significance? And I guess the people that are pretty familiar with statistics are familiar with this. If not, essentially this means, are you sure that the test I was running is what was causing this and not something else? That's all these, confidence scores tell you.
Yeah, and why don't you just go ahead, Chris.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Scott. That I think is a key point, and I've seen a couple questions come in about, well, what about holiday traffic? James says, how do I know if it's good conversion versus weekend and holiday traffic? And that's why you're using kind of that session count, right? We're saying we know that after X number of sessions that we are 90% confident that this is a change for higher conversions rather than we had a good sales day.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And that's why it doesn't matter that you're changing, okay, Monday is A, Tuesday is B, Wednesday is A, Thursday is B. Your traffic on a daily basis doesn't matter. You're striving towards that total number of sessions and conversions so that you understand that it's not just Saturday or Christmas or whatever the thing is. It's the total number of visits that make it significant.
Yep. That's a good point. And that's what a lot of times, earlier we had the question about, can I just set it for this 1 week? And that's the exact reason that it's like, well, no, not really. There's just, too many variations to try to do it for a whole week or to make a change and say, oh, my sales were better this week. That's, so I think it's, a better price or whatever.
And let me ask you this, Greg. So what would you say is, because someone just asked this, I think it was Eric, I just scrolled down. What is the first thing to test, price or image?
That's a good question.
Meeny, miny, moe?
My favorite is actually probably image, especially if you have like something in mind, like, oh man, like if one of those examples that I gave you back here, it's like, oh, I have a bunch of items, or man, with a little bit of minimal propping, mine would look way better. If something like kind of sparked your interest when we're going through this, that would be probably the first thing that I would test, and then after that, price.
Okay. Yeah, and I shared that recently on a Periscope. I actually was talking to a guy in Denver who was actually part of our TIS breakthrough, and he was talking about him split testing, and he tried an image similar to the one like you have up there with like all of those headbands, and he had an image that was just like that, and then the next image he took and he just scattered them. He made them look messy, and the messy one converted 6% higher, and he did it. He did that test over and over and over again just to see if it was a fluke, and it came out to be where it was clearly the winner.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, right? Like all your competitors have a neatly laid out set of headbands here, and yours is that one that's a little bit different, and it's drawing people's eyes to it, it's getting the clicks, and you're gonna make more sales from it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna answer. There's a bunch more questions here, but Greg, why don't you? I